My name is Jason Stanley. I'm the Jacob Urowsky Professor of Philosophy at Yale University. I want to talk about charter schools, but I'm going to talk about charter schools by beginning somewhere else, somewhere very different. I'm going to begin by talking about the neighborhood public school. I attended neighborhood public schools. And what is the neighborhood public school? It gets a lot of bad rap now. The neighborhood public school is an institution that links a community back for generations. It links you to people who went there 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It links you to a history. And who teaches in the neighborhood public schools? Public school teachers who mostly live in the community. They connect you to a history. They connect you to a place. When you replace neighborhood public schools, what gets lost? Well, teachers of neighborhood public schools are members of the community. They're permanent members of the community. Their kids are members of the community, and often their kids' kids too. What gets lost is that sense of history, of community, of place, of memory. And what replaces it? What replaces it is an ideology of success, of excellence. But what is success? You can be successful at many things. You can be successful at counting blades of grass. Is that success? It isn't success. So when we sacrifice community, when we sacrifice shared history, collective memory, togetherness for success and excellence, we really need to think about what trade-offs we're making. So even if charter schools did work, even if charter schools gave us some metric of success, some metric of excellence, we'd still be sacrificing a tremendous amount by moving from neighborhood public schools to charter schools. We'd be sacrificing our history, which is so important to thinking about policy, to thinking about what we should do. And what we should do is what democratic governance is all about. As a people, we're supposed to get together and figure out what we should do. Without knowing the history of our community, how can we do that? Now, sadly, I've set up a false equivalence because I've said charter schools are about excellence. Charter schools are not about excellence. Charter schools have ranged from having no effect on the very metrics they're supposed to help with which they're supposed to help, to being utter disasters. Think of Governor Rick Snyder's Educational Achievement Authority in the state of Michigan, which moved 10,000 mostly poor African American students from Detroit public schools to charter schools, to the Educational Achievement Authority, 80% of which became for-profit charters. These students, as Kurt Guyat argues in a 2014 article, these students became used as guinea pigs by software companies to test their educational equipment. Charter schools take our common public goods, our common infrastructure, our common public infrastructure, like neighborhood public schools, and they transform them into mechanisms of profit. What impact does that have? What impact does that have to treat education as profit? Well, the impact it has is it leads people to cheat. It leads people to create one charter school that only takes top students and doesn't have special ed, doesn't have the various things that are not going to be profitable. And then it uses that school to market the other charter schools that are managed by the same companies. And what we've seen is horrific abuse. We've seen horrific abuse. We've seen teachers that are not connected to the community. I don't care about qualified because being connected to the community is part of what a teacher is supposed to be. And we've seen, disturbingly, we've seen a militaristic policing of these institutions. We've seen uniforms. When I go to affluent white neighborhoods, I see the great neighborhood schools there. I don't see kids in uniform. Why is it that we are requiring poor children, mostly of color, to wear uniforms, go to a different school every few years, and mainly be disciplined rather than educated? I think we really need to think about that. We really need to think about the fact that if charter schools and wearing uniforms were so great, why aren't we doing it in Greenwich, Connecticut?